When we say digital divide, we're usually either talking about people with computer skills versus those without, or else we're talking about the disparate distribution of high-speed internet access. As you may have guessed from my title, I'm going to talk about the gap between digital competence and digital experts, the intra-digital divide. While creating this video, I learned about a different sort of digital divide, those who are good at digital animation and those who are not, or possibly, in my defense, companies with and without good interface designers. Regardless, please forgive me for the rough edges. To talk about this interdigital divide, I'm going to reference a debate within the Preserving Virtual Worlds team about a project that never fully ripened. If it interests you, please do get in touch because I would really still love to see it happen. Inspired by AVSAP, the audio-visual self-assessment program developed by the University of Illinois Libraries, we wanted to create a resource to help cultural heritage pros identify and work with video game media. We were immediately struck by a dilemma while scoping the project. What level of skill could we safely assume when writing our guides? But my colleagues prevailed, and I had to agree that a guide requiring advanced knowledge would have a pretty small audience, and chances are that most of those potential readers would be well able to find the information we'd be offering without us. So where was the middle ground? There are whole courses and sequences of courses on digital preservation for a reason. It's a matryoshka of a topic, and there was no way we could build that scaffold and cover our specialized content in the 3 months we had left. So we compromised. We'd partly cover floppy and optical disks, they are, after all, common game media, and we'd build an annotated link library to provide the grounding needed to get the most out of our guides. Could we assume our audience had experience with more mundane legacy media, like floppy disks, or was it dangerous to assume any familiarity with migrating to media-neutral formats? What responsibility did we have to provide the scaffolding necessary for a novice to understand our more advanced content? I'm not going to lie. My initial instinct was to jettison any attempt at scaffolding and include a disclaimer that the content assumed a certain level of expertise. PVW was nearing its end, and I was anxious to get a substantial prototype out there. The smaller the scope, the better. Though I don't think it was the best choice, we began bending a MediaWiki site to our will. We had maybe an eighth of a developer, and it did seem safe to assume most of our audience would be familiar with wikis. This was, after all, an intra-digital divide, and we were assuming a certain level of general experience with computers and the internet. We didn't have even an eighth of a UI UX dev, so a wholly custom interface was best avoided. I mentioned being inspired by AVSAP, and like that project, our guides were structured around a survey instrument designed to be filled out during acquisition or processing. The larger goal of the project was to grow a collection of optionally public responses to the benefit of the community, kind of like an advanced WorldCat for video games. This way, any smaller problems not covered by our guide, for instance, not all cartridges work with the copy NES, could be documented as they occurred. Back to the structure of the thing. One small helpful feature was conditional questioning. We didn't want anyone contending with questions irrelevant to the item in hand. As for actual guidance, any information that was not obvious to obtain would link to a tutorial or a reference page, and we tried to define all jargon via pop-up. Of course, non-obvious and jargon were determined internally, that is, by the experts, and there's no doubt that we were blind to a lot of gaps. This, of course, is why any kind of training material should be tried out by real representative members of the target audience before going live. Fortunately, or unfortunately, our guides never went public, so those hidden gaps never showed up to swallow us. Thank you. Please do tweet or email any questions since I'm not there or here in the room.